Hello and welcome back to Body Beyond the Scales, the podcast that helps you get stronger and more confident through building better habits. So today I am joined by Rachel Henley and we're going to be talking all about the gym, how to get confident in the gym and just lifting and making yourself nice and big and strong.
I'm still
Rachel,
working on that.
this is the title of the podcast, Get Big and Strong. Rachel, without further introduction, who are you?
Yes, well, thank you. I'm hoping that I'm Rachel, someone that is big and strong. But no, I am Rachel and I am Henley Fitness on Instagram. So I've been a coach now for, going on 6 years, which makes me feel a bit old. Getting there. But yeah, I've been lifting for a good decade as well. And yeah, I'm just someone that is here and passionate to get people into the gym, getting people stronger. And that's kind of my whole personality these days. So that's basically who I am.
You are just someone who wants to get really big and strong.
And make other people really big and strong. I want to build an army of big and strong women. Let's fucking go.
So what got you into the gym? So 10 years ago, what was going on? And why were you like, yeah, all right, let's give this thing a go?
Okay, I think it was actually 15 years ago. I've just pretend I'm forever 25.
I think everyone's like, no one's really aged since COVID. So yeah.
It's so weird. Like people in the year 2000 that are born in 2000 are now turning 25, which is odd because I was born in the 90s and I'm still 25. So it's all a bit strange. Yeah, how can that, the maths don't math. So I've actually started training when I was 15, was when I first started doing weight training. I was always sporty as a kid. Loved football, loved tennis. I think I did a bit of karate. I basically had a lot of undiagnosed ADHD and my parents would just put me into whatever class would have me. I just had energy all the time. So I always was active as a kid. And then that also, with that hyperactive brain, brought on a lot of anxiety as well. So I actually had quite severe panic attacks, panic disorder from the age of around 6, which sounds quite aggressive. It was quite aggressive. It was something that was just always kind of in my childhood, and sport always kind of helped that. It was one of the few outlets of me just running around on a muddy field would make me feel good for an hour, and it would quite often just kind of lower my anxiety and things. As you kind of go into your teenage years and all the hormones come and tell you you're a little bit of a prick, or life starts to get more stressful, you actually have to do well in school, you can't just fuck about anymore. It's all those things I think layered on top just kind of added to the severity that I felt with anxiety, and I just never really felt in control of it. And at that time I was kind of going through therapy, even through my early teen years. And they said, well, I think something that might just help her, because the outlet that she mentioned of going and playing football and stuff is something that is great, but it's not something that you can always do. It's I had to wait to Sunday league to feel something or to have that outlet. So it was well, can you do something that's more in your own time? And so they actually recommended that I just get a gym membership or start running, or just start doing something on my own time. So I remember I went then, okay, I don't want to do running. I do enough of that. That's all I do all week. So I was like, oh, I've seen some weightlifting and I've heard about it. So I want to do that. And just around the corner from where I lived, it was just down the road was this community, it was in a school. It's this little community gym. It was the only gym in our town at the time. So it was this little, beaten up. It had a barbell. It had these little dumbbells. They were falling apart, held together with duct tape, one or two. I think it had a lat pull down machine and a leg press and maybe a leg extension. That's it. That was the gym. And I remember turning up and then they're you need to be 16 to join. And I went back and told my mum and she was like, well, you need to go. So we're going to forge a signature, and well, not forge, you have to say, do you disclose that you're above 16? And my mum was like, yeah. And the gym staff as well, they're like, yeah, we'll just put 1994 rather than 95. We're fine. Because they went and chatted to them. So they're like, yeah, it's fine. You can go. And then, yeah, I kind of got into the gym from there. And it's something that did really help my mental health. I still had I still do get anxiety now, but it's something that is much more manageable. But through the ages of 15 to 20, it was the thing that really kind of was the support system behind that gave me structure and control, that kind of was an anchor to me getting a lot better in the way that I could actually function in the adult world. So I have a lot to thank the gym for that. It was obviously anxiety inducing getting into the gym and doing something new, but building structured training, starting to see that I could get stronger in something, having that structure to my week, it just kind of it gave my brain a bit of an anchor. It cleared a lot of the fuzziness around it. And yeah, it was around like 18, 19, my anxiety really started to reduce. And then, yeah, I just kind of stuck with it. And then I kind of fell in love with it for all the other reasons of like, yeah, you get stronger, you feel more confident, you start to see a delt popping and you're like, oh, yeah, okay. You start to hit PBs, you start to see like those sorts of things. And like, I just fell in love with it from there. And then, yeah, when I was like 19, 20, I started to take it a lot more seriously. And then when I was 21, I fell over nothing playing football and shattered my ACL.
Oh, career-ending injury.
Yeah, here comes the injury. Here comes the. I would have gone pro if it wasn't for my knees. But yeah, it was to say. So initially, it was like for like mental health, and then it was like, although I was training and I did love it, I was training like a dickhead at that point. Like, I won't lie, I was going to the gym 6-7 times a week, and probably because it was more like a mental therapy for me more than anything else. I was doing some crazy workouts. I don't know if you were around when bodybuilding.com was like the main source, or on like forums was like the main source of like.
I'm a touch younger than you, so
maybe
like, not quite in that era.
It was before the era of social media, or even like YouTube was like kind of there, but not really. There was no like Jeff Nippard or anything like that to kind of get that initial understanding. It was bodybuilder bros on a forum, and then it was like eat chicken, broccoli and rice 5 times a day. It was like peak that era of like, if you want to go into the gym, that's what you do. Either that was like women's health and all the diet culture, so it was like, it was all toxic wherever you went.
Or chicken, broccoli and rice.
Yeah, it was either pink dumbbells or you're a big burly man taking steroids. I was like, I want to do that more than the pink dumbbells. So it was like, but it did still mean I was like doing training programs. I remember doing one, it was like called like Shortcut to Shred, where you would like try to build muscle and lose body fat at the same time. And it was a case of like, you would do weight training. So you'll do like heavy squats and then jog on the spot in between, so that you never let your heart rate go down, because you're building muscle when you're lifting the heavy weight, and you're burning fat as you're jogging on the spot. I did some ridiculous stuff. So that was when I was like between like 15 and 20. Then I shattered my ACL, probably because I was overtraining, under recovering, and just was like, I tested it a little bit too far. And then where I was then kind of forced out of the gym, I was quite all or nothing with it. So I was like, okay, well, I can't train, so I won't train. At that initially, like the first couple of months after I did that injury. But then I just started reading up on stuff. And it was like, then like podcasts were a bit of a thing. So there was like 3DMJ. I don't know if you know, like Eric Helms and all that. I discovered by accident his podcast. And I was like, all of this is completely different to what I do, and it sounds a lot more intelligent. I'm going to give it a go, with a bit more like evidence-based stuff. And I started going, oh, there's actually science behind nutrition and training. Interesting. I thought it was just these forums. And so I started like going into a bit of that. So I basically just started training upper body, because I couldn't really train lower body, because it was like it wasn't just ACL, it was like a few other things that were going on. So my leg was out of function for a good like year and a half. And so during that time I was like, well, I'll try doing like the upper body stuff. And I saw more progress in 6 months than I had done in 5 years of following random shit. And I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. I can now do pull-ups. I'm now like getting pretty wham. I feel pretty good. And then when I like had my surgery and I was like recovered with my knee, it was like, okay, and then that went over to lower body. And I started being like, oh my God, I'm now starting to like be able to do over 2 times body weight deadlifts and do like even more stuff. And it's like, okay, this is kind of cool. And it was at that time that I then was like, well, I don't want people to waste the same amount of time that I did. People started seeing that I was getting like pretty freaking decent results, like quite quickly as well, in like after injury. They're like, after injury, why are you getting like this strong this quickly? Like, how are you doing pull-ups? Those sorts of things. So people just started asking, and then I started like
science,
bitch, yeah. And then it was like, after like, then you just start. There was a few people that I just started coaching. Like, I'd just go to the gym with. It was like, yeah, you coach for free. There was a couple, like I think there was like 4 or 5 people that I was just like coaching for free before I was even qualified. I wasn't necessarily coaching them, just come to the gym with me. And then they started seeing really cool results, and I was like, oh, I'm actually quite good at this. So then I went and got qualified, like as like a nutritionist first, and then a personal trainer afterwards. And then I was actually, background to all of that, I was designing bathrooms. I went and did a design degree, design bathrooms. Not very important, but I was doing a job that I hated, that I didn't really want to do. And then so when I realized I was good at that, and it was something that I loved doing, and I knew that you could do like a self-employed career with it, which was quite beneficial. I was like, okay, let's kind of go all in. And then it was just after it was in the midst of COVID, actually. I quit my job and then went and did personal training and nutrition full time. And then that was 6 years ago this December. And the rest has been history, really. So that was a very quick but very long story of my life.
It was a stop tour of the last 15 years.
Yeah, I was like, is there anything else that you want? We can go back to birth if you want. I don't remember much of it.
Let's now run through every single country that you visited during that time period. And
You don't want to know, I had a mental breakdown about 3 years ago. So,
oh, so you went traveling.
oh yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that. Fuck me.
Did you find yourself in Thailand?
That's a little bit personal. I did. Genuinely. I was in Thailand for 4 months. I didn't find myself. Yeah. I'm not even joking. Yeah, no.
Did you buy the elephant harem trousers? That's the next most important question.
You know what? I don't like you, Holly.
Right, so we know definitely what you're wearing is your lounge around trousers.
No, definitely not.
From your backyard.
Did I tell you that I travelled?
Yeah, that is a really cool story though, from like where we started at the, like, obviously 20, like what would that have been, 15 years ago would have been like what, 2010ish. And obviously, as you said there, I think a lot in the health and fitness space, and a lot in the like especially when we go to like thinking of every corner of it, from like muscle building to weight loss, like all of these areas started off with being very much like sleepy is the only way that I can like kind of describe it. Like the bodybuilding forums that you were saying there, but that matches to like my experience of, well, all of our knowledge was coming from like diet magazines, like coming from like my weight loss knowledge was coming from the diets that I found in a magazine. Like, so it definitely shows that, like, as I think we've moved on, as social media has become bigger, there's now better access to information. And I think if you're finding that better access, you're able to get more science-backed, evidence-based like solutions, which I think is a really cool transition. But yeah, when you were first starting out in the gym then, and you were starting to figure stuff out for yourself, what were like the biggest mistakes that you were making, other than just trying these crazy programs?
That's to say, jogging on the spot.
Yeah.
Doing heavy squats, which, not to be too graphic, did make me shit myself. Was probably peak. That was probably peak. But I think, yeah, I think it's one of those of like, as much as I made loads of mistakes, because I think, yeah, the biggest ones was just picking up programs every 2 weeks, trying a new one, because I was like, well, this is the new thing. I had shiny object syndrome to a T. Like I was doing a new form of training every 2 weeks. Same with diet. Like I'll be doing carb cycling. Oh, that looks fancy. I'll do that. I'll do fasting next. I'll do keto next. I think I did everything in a very like quick way, but it was like, from doing it that way, I learned like, it just, like, I think you learn a lot by figuring out what doesn't work. And I think this is something that I think is really important for, like, especially getting into the gym, because I think people are so scared of making a mistake, of going into the gym and doing the wrong program, or doing the exercise wrong, or looking like an idiot and those sorts of things. But spoiler alert, it's like, you can't avoid that part. It's like, we can hopefully, if you're here, we can make that part so much quicker and avoid a lot of it. But even like people that we coach, like they'll do a video of their form and I'll be looking at that and going, oh yeah, we need to make about 7 tweaks here, but we're going to start with one. Like, it's one of those of like, that initial stage of getting it wrong is part of the process of getting it right. And I think when you give yourself the space to do that, I think it's something that it just creates a safer space of fucking about and finding out. And as well, when you've done it wrong, when you then do it right, you feel it. Like, the reason that when I was doing, like I say, I did all the kind of crazy diets every 2 weeks to try and get shredded and find an ab, and never stuck to anything. I did, like I say, stupid programs that were absolutely obliterating, like hour-long HIIT workouts where I'll be like a puddle on the floor and be like, yeah, that was a great workout, only to look the same 6 weeks later after doing that every day. It's like I did all those things. So when I actually stumbled across the information that was like, okay, well, now I'm actually going to understand my calories. I'm going to start increasing protein. I'm going to be consistent with that. I'm going to start doing training maybe just 3-4 times a week, but doing it much more structured programming where I'm looking to progressively overload each week. When I started doing that, it felt so right because of how wrong I did it before. And I think that's something that it's like, yeah, I say sometimes finding out the right way via the wrong way, I don't think is necessarily the worst thing in the world or something that's even completely avoidable. But I think it's just like, with the headspace of doing it, of like, be curious about it and question stuff and be like, is this really working? And do I understand why? Like, just go through it with that. And it's like, if you get stuck with that, then reach out to someone that maybe is like 5, 6, 7 years ahead of you that goes like maybe us. But it's like, we can then go, yeah, actually that is shit because of this, and that isn't shit because of this. But I think like you can actually find a lot about that by just giving it a go. Like, don't stress, like, give it a go. And if it's shit, okay, like, that's fine. Like, you just like move on to the next thing. If it, well, like, make sure you're checking to see if it actually works. But like, yeah, like, don't be afraid of, doing it wrong.
I think like the idea that we always like jump from thing to thing is like so interesting, because like that's something that I find all the time, is that like it's really easy to jump from diet to diet or from like program to program. But like, what, I guess when it comes to the gym, what's the value in that consistency of finding something and sticking with it? What does that allow for you to do?
Make progress, to be honest, especially like in the gym. Like, because I think you do quite a lot of like, is more people listening to this maybe more from like the weight loss side of things, or is it a bit of both?
Weight loss, but like getting stronger within that weight loss as well. Yeah,
because I think a lot of people maybe like, just thinking of like people that might be here, of like, you might be like, with weight loss, you know, it takes a long time, right? Like everyone knows like, oh, I wish fat loss would happen quicker. Oh god, it's like, it's taking a long time. Now muscle gain, it's like twice as painful in terms of it does take a really long time to see adaptations to your, well, strength can sometimes, like initially you might see some like fast things, but especially like building muscle and building a substantially different physique. Like people look at, like I have people quite often go, I want to build like shoulders and a back like you. Like I want to be able to see that I can do that. I was like, I've been training 10 years. That's where that's come in. And it's like, I think they say that consistency is like, that's what gets you there. You just like, I say, and if you're doing these really painful programs that you don't really see much progress with, so aren't very motivating, so you do it for 6 weeks and drop it off, it's like you're going to be spinning the same wheels over the next 5 years and never get anywhere. Whereas if you kind of have that structure behind you, where that, I say, where you are being dead consistent with it and you're enjoying it, and I think results increase enjoyment. Like I know if I was doing what I was doing and I wasn't seeing any changes, it's like, yeah, I do enjoy the process, but also when you hit a PB, that like layers on top of the cake and inspires and keeps you going. So it's one of those of like, when you are having that like consistent reinforcement of like, oh, what I'm doing is working, it's moving me closer to where I want to be, I think it's like that makes you more consistent. And then the more you're consistent you are, the more it turns into a habit, the more then you go, well, the next 5-10 years are going to pass anyway. And the habitual person that I am is someone that trains 3 times a week. And it's like, then I say the results happen as a byproduct of that. So I think like ultimately what happens, to say from your initial question, was it like, why is it important to be consistent?
Be consistent, yeah.
It was like, that's the only way that you're going to get the results that you want to. Like muscle gain, even if you do everything right, will take at least 18 months to 2 years to be like, holy fucking shit, I built a lot of muscle. So don't waste time by not being consistent. Like lock in and get it done. Like basically, like yeah.
I think one thing that's really interesting there is that obviously you've said that when you were younger you were going like 5, 6, 7 days a week, and now you're doing 3 solid sessions a week. What was that shift for you, and like why did that shift occur, and I guess what benefits have you seen since then?
So mostly it's like just life differences. Like when I was 18 and at uni, that I didn't really want to do, like the gym was my life. Like it was my life. Like that's all I would do. And any rest day I would hate it, so like I want to go to the gym, because I didn't really have much else outside of it. Whereas like now I have a business, I have I have like a partner, I have friends, I have other shit that I've got to do. I'm an adult, I've got to do other stuff. So it's like, I think it's like the lifestyle, like I just wouldn't suit doing 6-7 days a week. So in terms of like doing what I want to do in life, it just wouldn't be accommodating to that. But I think the other thing in terms of like physiology speaking, of like building muscle, I did find going from like 6-7 days a week to 4 to 5 days a week. I think 3 days a week, like I don't see as good a progress as I do when I do 4 or 5 days a week. Like I know that when I'm training consistently 4 or 5 days a week, I do see better progress, because I think I just, like me individually, I just respond a little bit better to higher frequency training. That's fine. But it's like, but giving myself that, maybe going down to 4 to 5 days a week, it's like having those 2 rest days actually meant I could rest, which meant that physically I had recovery to kind of go in and push harder in my sessions. So the sessions became better quality. So rather than just going in and fucking about, I was going in and being able to push a lot harder, a lot more consistently. And I actually saw better results as I started to reduce the amount of training I was doing. But I think a bit of that maybe is a bit mental as well, of like, as much as I did love and live for the gym, like it is one of those of, even then, it's like having a couple rest days and giving you that fire to get back in the gym. It's like you go, oh, I'm actually excited to spend this 1 or 2 hours like crushing shit. Whereas if you're doing that every day, like it does get a bit boring. It gets a bit tired after like a few months, maybe a few years, whatever. So I did find like by that point in my journey, when I was like tailing back sessions, I was like, oh, actually having some rest days meant that I could just like chill, rest, recover, and then go in and crack on with the session. So it's like, yeah, I think it's I think that's the mental and physically. I think for most people, they tend to see that benefit.
Yeah. I think for me, I like doing 3 sessions a week of for me as well, like if I'm doing 3 sessions a week, I'll do 3 full body sessions. Whereas if I'm going up to like 4 sessions, 5 sessions a week, I'd be looking into doing, okay, well, maybe a slightly different split. And if then I missed that, it would mean, so say I was doing like upper, lower, say I only ended up doing 3 sessions that week because something got in the way of session 4, it then means that you've had like a week where you've not quite hit everything evenly. Whereas if I do full body, it doesn't matter if I've say missed that last session of the week as much. And if you're someone who struggles with consistency and you're struggling to build that up, maybe like a piece of advice from me would just be to actually stick to the full bodies and just do everything in those sessions so that you're not like unevenly training your body if that's not your intention. So like it's worth sometimes thinking about of like how consistent can you be, because if you're struggling to hit say like 4 sessions and you're constantly missing like upper 2, it's worth going, okay, well maybe it's time to say let's do 3 sessions, but do 3 better sessions than doing 4 sessions inconsistently.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's a really typical thing that I see with people is that they get, maybe they have that initial excitement of the gym of like, yeah, I'm going to like that initial spark of inspiration, motivation. They go, yeah, I'm going to train 5 times a week because I can, so I will. And then it's usually it's like a body part split, or it's like upper, lower. Well, usually it's like chest day, shoulder day, arm day, leg day. And it's like, you, as you mentioned, you miss the same session each week as well. So it's one of those of like, I've seen it countless times with someone, they miss like, they do like the first 4 sessions of the week and 5th session's legs, and they know that's the hardest one, and it's when they're tired and they go, I don't want to go train legs. And it's like, it's maybe more guys that do this, but it's like you go, yeah, I can tell you've skipped legs for the last 6 months because like it's just like, it's quite apparent. Or like, I think like there's other body part splits that are a little bit more specific, and I don't like those body part splits. If you can dead consistently do it and you absolutely love it and you recover well from it and you're progressively overloading and you're enjoying it, like those splits are absolutely fine. But I think like the biggest error with them is that level of consistency that people stick to them. And I think so often people expect themselves to go from like 0 sessions a week up to 4 or 5, and you're like, as you say, why don't we start with 3 or maybe even 2 or 3? Let's get yourself consistent there. When that's consistent, then we're in a much better place to kind of build up from that.
I think for me as well, like I find that if you completely starting as a beginner, starting with just 1 session a week is absolutely fine. Like do 1 session a week, do that for the first 2 weeks, then in the next 2 weeks add in a second session, then you're doing 2 sessions a week, then add in a 3rd session, and then like from there stick at that for a few months, 6 months, 12 months. And then once you're kind of like doing that consistently and you're like, do you know what, I could fit another session into your week, then maybe add a 4th session in. But like there's no rush. Like when Rachel's described her journey, we're talking about 15 years there. We're not talking about like a small amount of time. We're talking about like a huge journey. Like, and I'm sure you're like, well, as you've said, the amount that you've actually worked out across that time has changed. Like, so that's okay. Like, you don't have to do one thing and stick to it. You can move that around, but make sure that your program is working with your life. You're not trying to just like crowbar something in that doesn't fit with your current circumstances.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
With that, then you mentioned the concept of like progressive overload. Can you give us a bit of a rundown of like what is progressive overload and like how to, I guess, do it properly?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think that's definitely a term that's kind of thrown around a bit because it's important. So essentially what progressively overloading is, or progressive overload, is that over time you're seeing that the amount of work that you're doing is increasing in some way. So there could be different ways that you see this. It can be that you go up in weight over time. So hypothetically, if you start at doing 3 sets of 10 reps of a barbell squat at 30 kilos, it could be over time you get that up to 3 sets of 10 at 35 kilos. So that's one way of progressively overloading. The next way could be increasing reps. So you do 3 sets of like 30 kilos, but for 11 reps rather than 10 reps. So over time, you're increasing those reps. But it could also be things like increasing your form as well. When I say increasing your form, basically squatting less shitly. So if you're getting deeper, like you could do the same weight, but you're actually hitting it a bit deeper. So the muscles are getting more attention to them. It's like you could keep the same weight, but improve form. And that is another form of progressive overload. Where I think people get progressive overload a little bit wrong, or it gets a little bit confusing, and I think it can sometimes be like a little bit damaging when people kind of go, because they go, okay, well, I know I need to progressively overload to see like the results. And so if you don't go into gym, you don't see progressive overload, you go, oh my god, I did the same weight as last week, I failed, the session was a wasted session. But that's not actually how progressive overload drives gains. progressive overload is more of a byproduct of you doing the right things. So if you imagine when you start, I want to draw like a diagram of a beam. I don't know, just so you're starting off, and you're going in, and going back to that squat, 3 sets of 10 reps on 30 kilos of a squat. At the end of that set is very challenging. So you're like, at the end, you're like, those last reps, you're like, oh my God, why does my trainer fucking program me this? I want to kill her. Everything is moving a bit slower. Usually that's the biggest telltale sign that you're getting to like the end of the set where it's genuinely hard, not just mentally hard, but your muscles are like, fuck me, is that involuntarily the movement is starting to slow down. So from the bottom of the squat standing up, you notice like halfway through you go, oh, this is a little bit slower, or like a bicep curl halfway through the movement, you go, oh my God, I'm having to grind out that rep. And you can feel it's slowing down. Now, 3 sets. So what we tend to see is that those reps at the end, that is the thing that drives your body to either to adapt after the session, whether that is building muscle or getting stronger, or usually both. So it's one of those of like, that's what we're trying to drive to do. Now, if you do the same reps every single week, it's usually that becomes less challenging. So it might be the next week, if you just go, well, I'm just going to do 3 sets of 10 of the same rep, like, or like, it might be that you do the exact same numbers, but it feels a little bit easier. And so it's one of those, you might then have a couple reps that are a little bit less stimulating than the previous week. So what progressive overload is kind of like what you want to kind of go in and aim to do is you go in and try to maintain that level of intensity. And as a byproduct of that, you'll probably see that those reps are going up, that weight is going up. Maybe you're focusing on form, that form is improving. So that kind of happens as a byproduct. Now, I do think they kind of, in the real world, connecting together, like, because I find personally, if I go in with the mindset of I'm going to fucking get that number, I'm going to push on a rep here, I'm going to try and push that weight up, it's like, because like how hard a workout feels is as much mental as it is physical. And sometimes it's like physically your body is actually fine, but mentally you're telling yourself it's really hard. And it's like you can kind of like leave a few reps on the table and you go, oh, I thought that was hard, so I'll just say that I did the same as last week. Like I fall into the trap of that. I know I do. So quite often with that headspace of like, okay, well, I know I need to drive to those hard reps, and if I'm progressively overloaded, that means that I'm seeing like my reps and my weight's going up, that means that my training's moving forwards in a cool way. It's like I'll go in and I'll try and get those reps. Now, if I don't hit those reps, and it means that for another week that my performance stays the same, those sorts of things, it's like, well, I still hit reps that are close to failure. So I know it's adding more pennies in the bank to next week, maybe being able to get that extra rep, or maybe to get that extra weight. But it's that intensity is the thing that is driving the progressive overload. And I think, and the reason I know it's a bit more complicated than to say that, than just be like, just increase your reps and increase your weight. Like, I think that is another way you can just simplify it and just look at it. But I do think understanding that can help a few strops when you go into the gym and you go, well, like I've had it numerous times, clients are like, I didn't progressive overload this week. I know I have to see that again, so now that's a wasted week. And it's like, no, you like over time, especially as you get more advanced in your training. So like where I'm now 15 years in, it's like progressive overload that I see is maybe I'll add 1 rep on 1 set, maybe every 1 to 2 weeks. And then that compounds over time to being able to go up and weight and stuff. And it's like, if I had the attitude of like, every single time I go into the gym, I have to progressive overload, otherwise it doesn't work, I'll probably end up doing some stupid shit rather than just sticking with the same thing and doing that. And it would take a lot of enjoyment out of it. So I think it's one of those of like, recognize that over time on your program, you want to see that you're improving, but to drive that progressive overload, go in and train hard and train well. And then that as a byproduct, say you'll get there. So And
that's where that consistency element comes in. Like if you're not being consistent with your training sessions, it's a lot harder to progressively overload, but also see your progress. And exactly as you said there, like actually tracking your progress is so important, because
100%,
you'll see where the increases are, or where you're struggling more, or
you're not tracking, you're guessing. Like, I absolutely make sure you are tracking the reps you're doing, the weight you're doing. And also I always encourage my clients, even if they're quite new, to track RPE or RIR, which is basically how hard out of 10 you found that movement. So was it all the way to failure? Was it a couple reps shy? Like starting to learn to track that, or even think about that. I find that quite game changing, and it opens up a lot of options. It's like a good skill to be good at. Yeah, for sure.
So just to break those down as well, like, so RPE is rate of perceived exertion. So that's basically how hard was the exercise. 10 out of 10 being like, fuck me, I had no more. And 1 being like easy as pie, like literally barely did the movement.
Yeah.
Chances are if you're doing your exercises and you're down at a 1, you are not exercising. And then RIR is just reps in reserve, which basically means how many reps did you have left in the tank at the end of that. So like if I'd have put a gun to your head and said do another rep, if you'd have done one more rep, you weren't at a 10 out of 10 because you wouldn't have been able to do another rep. Whereas if I was like, right, go until the end, gun still to your head, and you had another 3 reps, it means that you had 3 reps in reserve. And that roughly tells us how hard you are working. And we want to make sure that you're working more towards that top end in general, like unless you are like injured for whatever reason, or maybe you're doing a warm-up set or whatever, but like in general, you want those exercises to be like up at the top end. What rep range do you, what like reps in reserve, or what like RPE do you generally suggest working at for like the majority of your workout?
So I think this is something that I would say with RPE is that it's a skill that you develop over time. And if you're new to the gym, and I'll say if you're less than 2 years into your gym journey, no offense, you're probably not going to be that great at it. I know it sounds really mean, but it's actually been studied that it's like there's been people that have gone into like labs and they've gone, right, what's your 10 rep max? Give it to me. Like, you're going to go and do it. And I think the average participant got 16 reps. I'm doing the study from the top of my head. It's in the bank somewhere. So I think it was 16 reps, but there were people in that study that were getting like 20, 25 reps because they just had no fucking idea. And these are people that have been training for a couple of years as well, I believe. So it's like, it is something, and it's definitely something that I see when I do. So I still do sometimes like in-person, we do like in-person events. And every single time people come and train with us, they come out with a ton of PBs because they weren't training hard enough. And it's just like, it's normal. It's part of the process. So it's one of those of like I say with RPEs, I'll say generally a really good spot is like an RPE 8 or 9 for a lot of lifts. The reason I don't say all the way to 10 is like for movements like deadlifts and squats especially, is like these are quite fatiguing. So if you're training deadlifts to failure, like genuinely gun to your head failure, puddle on the floor dead, you're going to want to go home and have a nap. Like genuinely, you probably are, especially if you're like lifting heavy weights at that point. If I went and did maxed out on triples on deadlifts, like, and I was doing like, what I would be doing for that, I would need to nap, and I'll maybe do one other exercise. Maybe could stomach some bicep curls because I could be dead and do some bicep curls. They're my favorite. So it's like, that's where reality would be. Whereas if I keep a couple reps back, it means that maybe I can do that full set, still hit some really good stimulating reps. It's still hard. It's still getting, like I say, getting close there, but I'll have the energy to recover to maybe not have to do like a 10-minute rest time, to then be able to kind of then do the rest of the work that I want to do, which will be more relevant for my goals at that time. So it's one of those of like, there is that sweet spot of like not always going guns out to failure. And keeping a couple reps shy. But this is where I say the caveat of newbie trainers, I don't actually program it quite like that. For compound lifts I do, because I think it's like you want to focus on form. I don't mind if you're a couple reps shy of it to begin with. If you're in those early years of lifting, it's fine. We want to just get your form absolutely fucking solid with these movements. Start to get to a position where it is feeling quite hard, so you are a little bit scared by it, but you don't want to run to the hills. That's a good spot. That's a good spot for like those like quite like technical like barbell movements or those heavy compounds, those sorts of things. But when we get into things like your bicep curls, your lateral raises, your leg extensions, your leg curls, the things that have like usually machine or isolation movements, like these are movements that there's less technical barrier to it and less pain threshold and less recovery needed if you do go fucking full send on it. So what I tend to do there is maybe do like, if it's like 2 or 3 sets that I've programmed, it's like the first set might be a couple reps shy, get a feel in, make sure you're all locked in with your technique, but still make it quite challenging. And then on the last 2 sets, like go hell for leather, like give me all you've got, because that then practices the skill of training to failure. And newbies as well, even when you do that, you're probably still going to be a couple reps shy, no offense. Because I think that's the thing that's really important if you are using RPE, is that you want to have a really strong calibration of like, where is your absolute max? Where is that? Because even as an experienced trainee, like your brain loves the path of least resistance. It likes doing things easier, and you will fall into the trap of like going, oh yeah, that was an RPE of 8. And then if you went and sent that all the way to failure, you might have got like 4 reps in, and you're like, okay, that wasn't them, was it? And it's like, that will always happen. So I think sometimes just having like that failure set in there, especially with like the more like recoverable exercises, is like, it's a good idea. It's like you'll probably like challenge yourself more. So yeah, I think generally, as I say, so like too long didn't read. Like RPE 8 is great for a lot of the big moves, and then when you go into the little moves, like at the end of each session, each set is like, send it, see where you're getting to, learn how to train hard, practice that skill, practice that pain in a nice way, and then you might be able to carry that a little bit over to some of the heavier compounds as well.
For sure. I think as well, like that's really important to say that with beginners and with especially like with like those newbies, if you're within your first 2 years of like starting going to the gym, you will gain more from like sorting your form out and like just being in a routine and just like regularly doing it and using this concept of progressive overload. Like you will gain more from that than you will necessarily like about going to failure in every single set. Like if you're going to failure, then great, like sure, but like you will gain more from understanding how to exercise because your body adapts much faster within the first couple of years. Like it's busy going woohoo, like oh my god, like we're lifting weights, we need to be prepared for this. Whereas like when you're doing it a little bit more, you've already got that base there, you've already got that foundation there to capitalize off.
Yeah, and I think that's actually where like not getting too wrapped up in the progressive overload thing is helpful as well in that first year of like, so often I see it, and I did it, 100% did it, of like you focus on the logbook and seeing those numbers go up more than maintaining form as you progress. So a really typical thing that I used to do is like I would load up on the squat and then but my range of motion will get less and less and less. So you would actually like you might like build the technique over the first few months, be like, okay, I can get that squat to legs parallel, or maybe like squat a little bit deeper, or even get a super deep squat. And then you start adding the weight up, and then you start reducing that range of motion more and more and more. So the logbook numbers are going up. Oh, my mum is called him. My God, mother. No. So yeah, you can kind of see that kind of range of motion is decreasing. But and we want to avoid that. So it's one of those of like when you're thinking about progressive overload, and that's why I think sometimes focusing on like, well, have I just taken that close to failure rather than try to always beat the number? It means that you go, when you're going through that mentally of like going through those reps, are we hitting that close to failure whilst maintaining technique? Like that's the sweet spot, rather than, oh, have I just kind of gone up? Oh yeah, I've hit a PB, I can put that on my story later. It's like, leave the ego out of this. That's not going to get you the big juicy muscles, the bigger strong muscles that you're on this podcast to achieve. It's like, yeah, so keep that baseline of technique, get that strong as fuck, and then layer that intensity and progressive overload on top of that. But that doesn't move. That's the non-negotiable that stays solid all the way through.
Yeah. And I think that's really important as well, because that's what's going to prevent you from getting an injury, prevent you from actually like picking anything up that you otherwise wouldn't want to, that would stop that journey down the line. So just asking yourself, like, how can you really focus on your form, not just like at the beginning, but how can you focus on that all the way through and make sure that form stays there? Have you got any tips for that? Like, so one of my tips would definitely be just like recording yourself, and like, don't be afraid to do that. Literally everyone is recording themselves in the gym these days. But just so that you can see what you look like whilst you're doing the exercise and be like, I thought I was a lot further back when I was doing this movement, or I thought that my core wasn't collapsing, or just things like that. And like, so yeah, recording yourself would be one tip. Have you got anything else there for helping improve form whilst doing exercise?
Yeah, I think that is a really cool thing to do. And I think it's one of those of, I would actually say, and this is I'm not trying to say this as a bit of a plug, but there's a lot of value of actually just asking for help. Of like, I think like there's always the debate, I don't know if people are always maybe trying to choose between like maybe an in-person trainer and an online trainer. I do think there's a lot of value sometimes of doing just maybe like a block of 10 with an in-person trainer and going like, I just want to learn how to do these movements. Like it is more expensive doing it that way, but if it means that it accelerates those first 6 months, and it again in that early stage, maybe that's when you're struggling to be consistent too, you have so a bit of accountability whilst actually learning those things. It's like that's a platform that you can go off, and obviously you can do that with an online coach as well. Like I do work with people that have never been in the gym before, and they record form and send it over. But sometimes you might just want a bit more of that more immediate feedback, or you don't want to record yourself in the gym. Like in-person personal trainers, that is their job, that's what they do. So I think that's I would say if you are really stuck and you just feel like I don't fucking know where to even start, I would say that's honestly such a worthy investment. Although I say it might be, I don't know the going rates now, like maybe like £300-400 for a block of 10.
It depends on where you are in the country.
I have no idea. Yeah. Literally have no idea. It's been a long time since I did in-person PT, but it's like it might be like, okay, that is quite a lot, but it's like if that sets you up to then be able to progress way quicker over the next 12 months, I think it's something that's a worthy investment. And once you've done it, you don't need to do it again maybe. So that's something. And then yeah, recording your own form. And I think something as well is like just knowing what muscle it is that you're trying to work, and just think about like, because quite often what each movement is doing is basically stretching and contracting the muscle that you're wanting to work. So if you think about a bicep curl, really easy to think about, when you have your arm straight, your bicep stretch, when you bring it up, you're squeezing it. If you can't feel a squeeze on the bicep, or you start to feel your shoulder, you start to feel your elbow, that's a bit of a flag of like, oh, there's something might not be quite right here. So maybe that's when you record it, or you look in the mirror and give it a go. And then so that's where a coach can kind of give you those cues. If you like feedback saying, this didn't feel it on my bicep at all, is that all right? It's like you can kind of do that. And then it's like, again, with, I don't know, things like your, bench pressing. it's like you should feel maybe a slight stretch in the chest, or you can kind of, and like say if your shoulder starts to call you a prick or your elbows do, it's like, okay, maybe there's something that we need to kind of fix here. I think it's one of those of like, if you feel in control of the movement and like, yeah, kind of going by feel a bit, I think that is a cool skill to learn in there. The only caveat that I would say is like, and this is might go, oh Rachel, you just made that really complicated, so I'm going to try not to, is like with some movement, sensation doesn't mean activation, in that like when you're kind of moving your body, it's like, it's not just what you feel isn't just like your muscle stretching stuff. There's like nerves and shit that cross over bits and bobs. And so there's certain movements that you might feel it somewhere else, but it's not actually activating it as much, or it's activating it fine and you don't feel it as much. Like a really typical one here is like with stiff leg deadlifts or Romanian deadlifts. It's like the glutes do work a lot in this movement, but you won't feel it as much as you would feel your glutes in a hip thrust. Because when you squeeze a muscle, you feel a muscle maybe a bit more than when you stretch it. And so it's one of those, it doesn't mean it's necessarily not working. Like loads of times I have people go, oh my God, I feel like I'm doing my RDLs wrong because I can't feel it in my ass. And I'm like, you're looking at it, it's like, no, you're absolutely fine. It's just like, you may be just chasing a sensation that maybe feels similar to a hip thrust. So it's like, sometimes that can kind of be there. And especially in that movement as well, it's like you have like your nerves that run down like all of your legs. So you might feel your hamstrings or the back of your knee really fucking stretch, but actually it's just maybe your nerves that are sending that signal. So sometimes it's like, it's not as easy as that, but generally, like, as I say, if you can see or feel that muscle kind of being stretched and squeezed, it's like, it might all feel a little bit different, especially when you're first getting started. You're like, I don't know if this is how it's meant to feel. But trying to tune into it a little bit, especially if things feel a bit, I say more, figure out if things are feeling a bit wank. Like I say, if your low back's telling you to piss off, if your core feels saggy, if your joints are going, oh, this feels horrible, it's like, yeah, then the good point to record form, ask for help, or do those sorts of things. But yeah, it's one of those of, I think quite often it's like the first 4-6 weeks, most of the adaptations that you see are neurological anyway, of like, you're getting used to it. So give yourself a good 4-6 weeks of just like practicing it, sleeping on it, going back in the next week and practicing it again. You won't do it right the first time. I say, you just won't. It's fine. But your brain does tend to coordinate and catch up and kind of figure out what you're doing a bit as well, just the more reps you kind of put in. So just in maybe those first 4-6 weeks of lifting, don't go towards the intensity and progressive overload stuff that we just mentioned. Literally just focus on form, literally just focus on feeling it in the right bits, maybe ask for help, maybe record your form, and then you can kind of layer on the other bits and bobs on top of that.
I think as well with that, in the first 4 to 6 weeks, the key thing there is like your brain is learning how to move, and your brain is learning how to move more effectively. So give yourself the time for it to figure it out. And like, if you didn't get it right, say at the end of session number 1, once you've slept on that, your brain's been allowed to like condense that information down and think about it again. So when you come back the following week, your brain's actually gone, oh, hang on, we've got the manual for this. We've done this. We practiced this last week. We know how to reach the quad muscle a little bit more effectively now. So what we'll do is we'll give it another go. Oh, we got a little bit better than last week. Nothing changed between the last rep last week and what you've done this week in terms of your inputs, but your brain's been allowed to like consolidate that knowledge, and that's really helpful. So you're just remembering that like, even if your session didn't necessarily end the best, or that exercise didn't end the best like on the last session, your brain's been allowed to process that a little bit more now, and it will be in a better position because of that the following week.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, how many other skills put that into different life situations of like when you're like learning to drive and you're like, oh, I can't fucking get this. I've stalled the car about 15 times. And you go in the next week and you haven't driven at all. And you're like, oh, I can do it now. It's like, yeah, that just letting your like time do its thing. I think that's quite valuable. Yeah.
Another tip as well for if you're struggling to feel anything is what I often do is if I've got like
mentally or physically.
If I am struggling to feel anything mentally, then that's a different issue.
I know, I went to the gym for that. So
we all just need to feel something. So but if I am struggling, like what I'll often do is if I've got a hand freeze, I'll like poke that muscle and just see if I can feel it working. I saw your face then. I saw you see the innuendo. Get your mind out the gutter, Rachel. But as you're doing that bicep curl, as you contract in, if you touch your bicep, you can feel the movement as it's happening. So sometimes it's just about practicing and thinking that and getting that mind muscle connection in there and just going, okay, yeah, if I'm pressing there, is that where I'm feeling it? Oh no, I'm actually feeling it a lot more in my forearm. That probably means that maybe something else is taking over. Hang on, if I just poke back around my bicep, yep, cool, I'm getting that engagement again now. So sometimes just playing around and just literally giving yourself that physical sensation to feel it, like, is really helpful as well.
Yeah, I definitely found that with stuff like hip thrusts.
Yeah.
touch
Just poke
with
you,
your free hand,
glute, off you
poke
go.
your butt
Yeah.
in the gym, poke your butt. But no, it is sometimes it's not just like I say, do you feel it? But sometimes it helps your brain connect to yeah, okay, that's the muscle we
There's
want
my
to.
glute. Yeah.
Oh, there's the one. There we go. Yeah, sometimes it can be quite helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. So
What I used
let's
to
say
do with
you're.
clients. Yeah, you're just gonna.
That's why you're not an in-person PT anymore.
Oh yeah, yeah. Hey, no.
Kicks out the gym. Kicks out the gym. I used to know someone, and he did his PT sessions with a stick, and he would literally just poke people with the stick, on like where they were meant to be feeling. And I was like, well, fair enough. At least you're not touching them. But yeah, if you are a complete beginner to the gym and you're feeling like actually I'm quite nervous about getting in there, what are your tips for alleviating some of the nerves to start off with? We're talking like pre-first session. We've not even got in the gym yet.
I always just tell people just to download my app because it's literally what I built it for. And I think like, yeah, unplug that. But I think it helps to have a bit of a program before you go in. Yeah, having a program, especially one that has like videos and stuff that can maybe walk you through. I think that is something to like have on hand before you go into the gym. If it's your very first time, I think again having an expectation of what you're walking into is quite helpful. It depends on what gym you're going to, but quite often there'll be someone at the desk that you can ask for like a gym induction. You can be like, can you just walk me through the kit, the machine? Sometimes I think I don't quite know because I don't use gyms like this, but with like Pure Gym and True Gym and all of those kind of like chainy gyms.
What on earth is True Gym?
Oh, that's one that's local to me, I think. They all shut down. There's only
Is
one
that
left,
like
I think.
Is that one of those chains that's like exclusively in one area and everyone's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
this
I think they
like
failed as
no
well.
one else in the country has heard that.
Is it like the gym group?
The gym group's
gym
definitely
group.
one,
Okay,
yeah.
So there's like the typical ones that most areas have, which I think are most kind of beginners go to because it's like it's affordable. It's usually less intimidating. I don't think most of those have reception anymore because you put in your code and you kind of go in, which is fine because I say if that is the case, then keep your program to hand and be like, okay, where can I figure those things out? And I think it's one of those if you are dead nervous and you're like, I'm in here now and I now can feel the world suck up my butthole and I don't know where the fucking hell to go. Like go and find like a bit of cardio quick kit. So like usually there's like a treadmill or like just a bike, like one of the standalone bikes. And I think those are a lot less intimidating, a lot easier to work out. Like all you need to do is usually press the big green button and then it goes. Or with the bike, you literally just get on and you kind of pedal. And it's like usually they're relatively easy. And it's one of those of like just go in there and like sit on that for 15-20 minutes if you need to, just to kind of get used to the space that you're in. You can maybe like look around, start seeing what other people are doing, get mental reps in. Like nobody will notice you. Like you will just like slide in and ghost away. Like nobody will know that what you're thinking about, what you're doing. And you can kind of look about, okay, oh, there's someone over there using the squat rack. There's someone over there using the dumbbells. Okay, that's how they're using the bench. And you can like use that as much as you want to. It might even be that you do that for a couple of weeks, that you just go in, like you get a few more steps in, you get a bit of cardio in, it's not the end of the world. And then you can, like I say, if you have your program with you, you can start looking, going, okay, how is that used there? What is that used there? And you can kind of give that a go. And I think like reducing that friction, I say, before you even set foot in the gym, like knowing that you have that option, so you don't have to go in there and beast yourself and do a whole big like hashtag gym girly workout. You don't need to be a gym rat. You don't need to do your gym selfie at the end. You don't have to do all those things perfectly. You can go in, be a little shy girl in the corner, get your head around what is it that you kind of need to do, and then you can start to maybe, like sometimes it can even be with the program. Okay, next week I'm just going to try one of these movements. That one doesn't look too scary. Let's start with that one. Next movement, let's start with that one. And it's like you can slowly build that. And it's like if you do that over like 4 or 5 weeks, it's like going in and doing the thing will be the thing that makes you want to do it. Because ultimately, like I think people go, oh, maybe I'm even too nervous to do that. It's like you're gonna have to do shit scared sometimes. And I know that's really hard, sometimes hard to hear. It's like, and that's something quite often that we work with. Like sometimes we can like maybe to meet in the middle a bit. We might do a few home workouts first of like, this is a basic squat, this is a basic deadlift, this is basic movements that we're doing at home. So you might just want to do that just so that when you're going into the gym, like you're doing the same workout but just in a different space. But even that, there's gonna be those points where you don't want to do it, but you got to do it anyway. And it's like, but the cool thing about it is like recognizing, okay, most people were scared when they got into the gym. It's not just you, so don't think you're a pleb for it. Like it's fine. You're like it is normal to kind of feel anxious going into the gym. But on the other side of that anxiety, and then the other side of that doing that scared, is probably all of the things like the thing that builds confidence more than anything isn't necessarily having jacked biceps. It's doing hard things that you said to yourself that you couldn't do, that you wanted to do, but you do it. It's like, that is what builds someone that is confident, that is kind of doing the things that you want to do, that is going to bleed into other areas of life as well. So I know it can feel quite deep, but it's like the gym can absolutely, especially if you are nervous about it and you are scared to do it, like honestly I'd say it's even more important that you give it a fucking go. And I say, like, ease yourself in, do it in those ways, but like just dip yourself into out of those comfort zones, because I say on the other side of that is something that is so fucking cool that you're ignoring, because it's like you're just seeing that fear in front of you. So yeah, just go in, do it scared, you'll be fine, promise.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things as well, is like I heard someone say the other day that ready isn't a feeling, it's a decision. And I was like, that is such a useful thing to hear, because it's like, you'll never feel ready until you've done something. Like, you won't feel prepared for something until you've actually like done it once or done it twice, like, so that you start to just be familiar with what that involves. Another thing that I do when I like first go into a gym that I've never been in before is I just go do a lap, and I just find out where the equipment is. Like, so if I'm like, oh, actually I want this, I will walk in, I'll go find the changing rooms, and then I'll walk around and just be like, right, okay, I can see that the leg press is over there. I can see that like there's a, like the cables are over there, like the dumbbells are here. And you just go familiarize yourself with the space. And like, once you've done that once, you're pretty much aware of where everything is in the gym. And like most gyms, in general, especially the commercial gyms, are kind of set out like Aldi and Asda are, basically the same everywhere you go. Like, so like once you've done it once, you'll see that like in general, the machines all tend to be together. In general, the squat racks all tend to be together. Like, so once you've started to familiarize yourself with what a typical gym like looks like, you'll be fine. Like, you just need to go get there and get on with it, basically.
Yeah. And quite often when we think about things, we make it worse than it actually is in reality as well. Like, not all of our feelings are facts. And I know that sounds very gaslighty of me, but it's sometimes you've got to kind of give your brain the evidence of like what the reality is, so that you can actually figure out what you're working with. And I think so often it is that fear of the unknown. It's like the fear of judgment and the fear of the unknown are quite often the anxieties around the gym, but you can get rid of one by just kind of going in there, they say doing a lap, going on a machine that feels comfortable. That gets rid of one of them. And then the fear of judgment from other people. I mean, like, I used to, when I was traveling and finding myself, I was living in a car in New Zealand for 6 months.
Of course you were,
yeah, obviously. But that was
pretty well post the gap year pants.
Post. This was last year. Last year? Yeah, last year. Yeah, it was it was last year.
Some point in your life.
At some point in my life, I was like, but this is when I was recording content in gyms. If anyone follows me, I like most of the content I'm recording is in a gym and talking to a microphone in the gym with a tripod. I'm the dickhead with a camera and a tripod in the gym, in the public gym. And I can tell you, is like, I do get judged. I do 100%. I get people looking at me going, this fucking influencer crowd. Like, I do get, and sometimes I do get people like roll their eyes at me and stuff, and I do have that. But most of the time I still don't. Like, it's still the very much minority of doing that. And the reason I was talking about New Zealand, I didn't just mean to plug it in there. I was going into new gyms every week because I was traveling around, and I'll find the gym and I'll just go in and I'll record. And it was like, I felt like a gym newbie at that time, because like I feel comfortable going into new gyms. Like I don't mind that, but going in with a tripod and a camera to a new gym where nobody knows me, like the gym that I record here, it's like the owner knows me. He likes seeing my stuff. He shares my stuff, so people kind of know that I go and do that. So it's kind of a bit more comfortable now. But like there, I was like, these people don't fucking know me, and they're thinking, what the hell is this person doing? Like, what the hell is this person doing? And then but it's like, ultimately, no one ever really did do anything that bad. No one has ever said anything. No one has ever like kicked my tripod over or called me like a dirty little bugger or whatever. It's like everything has always been fine. And it's like, and I am doing something a bit weird. I am doing something that probably should be judged a bit. Like, I do have to ask permission and stuff of like going to do what I want to do. And it's like, okay, if I can do that, I was like, you can do what the actual purpose of the gym is, of like go in, walk in and train. Like, nobody will notice that. People will notice the dickhead with the tripods, and there's always a dickhead with a tripod. So it's like, and that's talking to the camera, making dick jokes. Like, people notice that. But still, even with that, I'm still here. I still survived. I'm still all right. And I think like, yeah, sometimes I do think some people say that about like my content and stuff, of like watching it and going, okay, if she could do that, okay, maybe I could go in and do that. So yeah, it's a safe space most of the time. And I know some people have like their stories of people being knobheads, but knobheads are knobheads anywhere, not just the gym, on the streets, in Aldi. You get them everywhere. But like, so you can't always avoid judgment of people. It's part of being a human. But I think you don't want to like put off your goals or not see the things that you want to see because of a judgment of someone else that you don't even know, that you probably don't even like, that will probably forget about you in 5 minutes, even if they do judge you. So yeah, so just don't go in and start off with talking into a tripod for the first session. You'll probably be all right.
Yeah, to be honest, if that's like the barrier, then I think most people will be fine.
Yeah, legit.
Stay out of the way of the tripod and you'll be raped. First off, Rachel, thank you so much for coming on. This has been an absolute pleasure having this conversation around the gym. But before you go, I'd love to know, what does being healthy mean to you?
I think health is certainly a multifaceted thing to be. Like, I think there's so many things that kind of feed into health. I think in this industry, obviously, our focus is on the physical health of like that your bloods are in check, you're reducing risk of like maybe certain things, that certain nasties that not looking after your nutrition and training could kind of get you to. Like there's that physical health that I think we all kind of maybe are aware of. But I think like in that bucket, it's impossible to have that bucket without thinking about like your mental health, your social health, your financial health, like all the things that make it enjoyable to be a human being and basically give you more life, but also a happier life. I think that is where like health comes in. And I think when you're thinking about things like with training and with nutrition, you've got to kind of think about those things alongside it. I don't think you can isolate it. And I think if you do, that's where we kind of run into some trouble. So I've always already mentioned that I used to train like 6-7 days a week, and I dropped that down to 3-4 days a week, because the healthiest version for me is someone that is advancing her business, that is spending time with their family and friends, that isn't going to, I know, like taking the gym so seriously that whenever I go to a pizza party, I'm bringing chicken, broccoli and rice, which by the way, I have done. I've gone through the phase of going too far, of like putting everything in, going, I want to be as optimal on paper as possible with my nutrition and training. I've been there. I've got shreddy Kruger. I've got, like I say, I've done all those things. Like, and it's like the impact of that is like my mental health took a beating. I was more critical about my body than I ever was when I was focusing on it that much, and it took up that much of my life. It's like I say, I actually felt worse about my body then when as opposed to now, where it's part of my life that I love, and I do like to have aesthetic goals and like get stronger and those sorts of things. But it's like it's not my whole thing anymore, and it's like and that like those sorts of things are really, really important. So I think it's one of those of like, it is, yeah, considering like there's the typical things of like having decent muscle mass is going to offset a lot of nasties. Having a healthy level of body fat, so not too low and maybe not too high, is probably going to put you in a better place physically healthy. It's like those things are physical facts, but then looking at the other side of like, okay, we're achieving that. How can you do that whilst looking after those other things? That's what encompasses healthy. And I think that's individual for everyone. But you can't ignore one facet for the others. They have to kind of all be put together. Yeah.
It's always really interesting to hear what everybody has to say on that question, because like you get all the answers are always so similar but yet so different. But like I love that, and adding the multifacets in there, because I do think it's important that you add multi-dimensions to your health.
Yeah, because what's it for you?
That's a good question. So for me, it's to be able to do what I want to be able to do with my body for as long as I am able to, as long as I am able to do that, like as long as possible. But also like look good, feel good, and play good. So like look good in that sense of like, I like how I look. Feel good as in like I can lift things, and like play good in the sense of like I can perform how I want to perform. So like I can go for a run when I want to go for a run. I can lift a weight when I want to lift a weight. I can lift the cabin bag up when I'm on an aeroplane. I can do the things that I want to do to perform in a way that I want to perform in daily life as well. So yeah, but also just stacking the chips in my favor so that for the long term I'll be where I want to be. But also, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, it wouldn't matter, because I'd have still enjoyed cake when I wanted to enjoy cake. I'd have still enjoyed life when I wanted to have enjoyed life. So, yeah, stacking the chips for the long term, but also making sure I like right now.
Little spin. I was like, I wasn't expecting to be hit by a bus to be following that sentence, but yeah.
Well, I don't think anyone ever is expecting to be hit by a bus, so I think that's why it's...
Fair. Yeah.
I just want to make sure that I've enjoyed my life right now as well, and not like sacrificed everything for down the line just in case.
Yeah, I think it's one of those of like you compromise rather than sacrifice, isn't it? Is like
exactly.
It's like you're thinking about the longer term of like where's your future you want to be, and making the decisions that align with that. It's a fun old road to figure out. And I do think as well, like, because we talk about like balance and things, and I think like health is balance. But I do, like, I kind of touched on this earlier of like, I think you sometimes find balance by fucking it up as well. Like I say, I've found that like I tried to be as healthy as possible with my nutrition and training, and so I took it so fucking seriously that other things like
It was
took
no
a
longer
hit.
healthy.
Yeah, that, and it became unhealthy. But I think if someone told me that, I wouldn't have listened, but I got it from experience. And because of that, I've now been able to settle somewhere a lot more balanced. And sometimes I do have phases still where I go, right, I'm going to go and give it some and prioritize and push with my nutrition training maybe a bit more than normal. Like over the last 4 months, because I had like 3 years of finding myself traveling, my training was kind of there. My nutrition was a little bit like, I ate protein, but I ate a lot of calories alongside it. So it was like I was still strong, mobile, able, but I was like, oh, I'm starting to actually feel maybe not too great in myself. I'm starting to, just not feel too fantastic. So over the last 4 months, I shifted. It wasn't as balanced. It's still balanced. I still went out, still like enjoyed life, and I didn't put life on hold last 4 months. But I did a few things that were like, okay, I'm going out for dinner, I'm going to order the salad because I am looking to like drop body fat over the last 4 months. So I had to make those compromises to get me to where I wanted to be. And now I feel better for having done that. So I think it's one of those of like balance can come in phases of like what that looks, but in general, it's like, it still always feels like right and aligned for you. I think that's the thing that you've got to kind of figure out.
For sure. And I don't think balance is necessarily like, oh, I go to the gym and I also like eat an equal amount of like, trash food, let's say. Not that there are good and bad foods, but like less optimal foods. But like I think it's really important to just recognize that like sometimes you've just got to do what you need to do, but also make sure that you've got enough enjoyment in your life that like your entire life hasn't become dedicated to becoming like one shredded bicep.
Yeah, that might be the line of my I know the tagline of my bio or something. Just
I am now just one huge bicep. I am the strong arm emoji.
Yeah.
No. Well, if people want to find you, where's the best place to get you?
Either Instagram at Henley Fitness or YouTube at Henley Fitness are the two best places to find me.
Lovely. Well, go check Rachel out. Thank you so much for coming on. And if you've enjoyed this episode, then please make sure that you give it a 5-star rating or review. Obviously, all for Rachel and definitely for my bad jokes that come up throughout. But mainly around Rachel's gap here. So you've enjoyed that, then it's definitely a 5-star episode. But otherwise, have an absolutely fantastic rest of the day, and I will catch you in the next one.